Yes, could you start?
Ariana, you can start.
All right, perfect. So welcome everyone to the University of North Georgia Press workshop on open pedagogy and AI, creating open pedagogy-based assignments with AI. I'm Ariana Adams, the Assistant Managing Editor at the Press, and I will be functioning as the MC for today's session, which will be primarily operated by UNG Press Director Dr. BJ Robinson, who will lead our discussion on leveraging AI while developing open pedagogical resources, and UNG Press Managing Editor Corey Parson, who will lead our segment on developing and refining AI prompts for open pedagogy. Next slide, please, Corey. Our goals for today's workshop are to explore how AI can be a powerful tool in transforming traditional assignments into open pedagogy-based tasks that enhance student learning while safeguarding academic integrity and privacy. We'll look at how open pedagogy and AI share many student-focused strengths, as well as potential hazards to student privacy, quality assurance, and bias detection. The steps that can protect against these hazards in open pedagogy can also protect against ethical and safety concerns in AI. In other words, AI can help optimize open pedagogy-based teaching and learning, and vice versa. As we move through today's subjects, keep in mind any open assignments you've either created or utilized in the past. Consider how these assignments can be further augmented, improved upon, or tailored using AI capabilities. As you reflect, keep track of any questions that may develop, as we will dedicate time to answer a few questions during our brainstorming and application segment and at the very end of the session. As we continue on, please feel free to place any pertinent questions related to our subjects in the comment section, which we will address intermittently throughout the workshop. Now, without further ado, I'll pass the presentation over to Dr. Robinson, who will start us off with a brief explanation of open pedagogy's core principles and AI's potential for enhancing open pedagogy practices.
All right, thank you. Next slide, please. And I'm not going to be seeing the slides from this point on, so I'll just trust Corey. Good morning, and thank you, Ariana. Before I begin, I want to let you know that I used our walled garden Gen AI to assist with my portion of the workshop. I uploaded each section and asked the AI to identify any gaps or omissions in my argument. I also uploaded my open pedagogy assignments, which I had already enhanced by incorporating AI, and asked it to help brainstorm additional assignment ideas. In the holistic open pedagogy rubric criteria I'll share with you if I have time, I included an AI component based on its suggestions. And I uploaded our entire presentation and asked the AI to highlight key takeaways. Having shared all that, let's now consider what I call the Open Pedagogy AI Nexus. Open pedagogy is rooted in the principles of inclusiveness and equity, student agency, and renewable, that is, public assignments. By using these principles, we encourage students to be creators rather than consumers of knowledge. And research shows that open pedagogy increases student engagement and success by making learning more relevant and collaborative. To implement open pedagogy, though, instructors should protect students' privacy by making them aware of how their work will be shared and giving them options for public sharing, like using pseudonyms or opting out by submitting their work directly to the instructor rather than posting to a public forum. It also motivates instructors providing students with digital tools like digital editing software and platforms for creating learning objects. Platforms like Merlot with its tutorials on using tools like PowerPoint, Adobe Captivate, and Articulate Storyline, or its learning object repository with interactive tools for creating interactive and multimedia quizzes or simulations in virtual labs. Instructors should be careful to inform students about copyright and licensing to prepare them for publicly sharing their learning objects or renewable projects. And instructors need to consider such ethical concerns as student autonomy and potential risks of public sharing. Most of these requirements match those with using AI in teaching as well. Next slide, please. Implementing AI into our teaching practices obligates instructors to making students aware of how AI systems use large amounts of data to function effectively, including grades, assignments, and personal identifiers. Instructors should be careful to ensure student safety and privacy, for example, by using walled gardens provided within their institution, like Microsoft Copilot at our institution, the University of North Georgia. Students should be aware of how their data is being used, even though they may not have given consent for its usage in AI systems. Also, instructors and students alike should be mindful of how AI algorithms can perpetuate biases and inequity due to the biases within its data training. This aligns with needing to protect students' privacy and safety when publicly sharing their work in open pedagogy assignments. Besides privacy and safety concerns, some instructors fear that using AI in education may adversely affect the quality of student learning. For example, students using AI to summarize assigned supplemental articles or essays may standardize their learning levels. Or AI use may hinder higher levels of learning, like creativity, if students rely on it to synthesize concepts or explain instructor feedback. Yet using AI within clearly instructor-established and informed parameters can increase students' sense of ownership over their education, an important goal of open pedagogy. And using AI may facilitate implementing open pedagogy in teaching and learning. Next slide, please. AI raises such additional concerns for instructors as plagiarism and transparency. Interestingly, open pedagogy can help obviate these concerns via collaboration and collaborative content creation, transparency, and inclusivity, that is, involving students in the design of course policies, outcomes, and assessments, as well as via using OER, reflective practice, and peer review and feedback within a community of practice. Transparency and inclusivity can facilitate using AI to help ensure instructors' own, and by extension students, use of AI in their teaching practices. They can do so in ways similar to preparing students for open pedagogy, for example, by obtaining informed consent and ensuring that students are fully informed about the AI tools and outputs the instructor used in creating and perhaps disseminating their open pedagogy-based assignments, and possibly used in refining their own feedback on student work. This information should include potential risks related to AIs, as well as instructors' own potential biases and knowledge gaps. So how can AI facilitate implementing open pedagogy? To begin, let's consider the what, how, and who framework. We will discuss traditional assignments such as essays or quizzes and explore how we can transform them into open pedagogy-based assignments using AI. This process involves rethinking content creation, publication methods, and identifying who will be the knowledge creators, whether students, instructors, or both, as well as the collaborative role of AI for both students and instructors. What? AI can assist in content adaptation and generation, particularly via prompt development. AI can help instructors generate prompts that encourage students to create content with broader public engagement in mind. For example, instead of writing an essay solely for the instructor, students might be prompted to create an interactive blog, a 3D art gallery, or a community resource that is accessible to others. Further, through fact-checking or flipped interaction, on which Corey may expand next, AI can generate open-ended, thought-provoking questions that encourage students to explore topics more deeply and from multiple perspectives, leading to content that is more suitable for public sharing. How? Instructors can use AI to enhance collaboration and inclusiveness by prompting it to locate, identify, or link projects to collaboration tools like Google Docs for content development and Spatial for creating shared virtual virtual rooms that enable real-time or asynchronous collaboration among students working together on projects regardless of geographical location. This supports open pedagogy's value of inclusiveness by breaking down barriers to participation and fostering a sense of community among learners. AI can also provide language and accessibility support. For example, instructors can prompt AI to translate content into multiple languages, assist with accessibility features like text-to-speech, or link projects to tools that help students of varying abilities engage with educational material. Corey may mention some of these outputs, like AI-assisted personalized learning paths. Others include customized quizzes and gamification, AI-powered study assistants, screen readers, real-time closed captions, or color contrast adjustments for students with visual impairments or other disabilities, and mind mapping tools or diagrams that can help students organize information visually. Also, AI can support customization and personalization, that is, student-focused assignments, by tailoring or customizing assignments to student interests. AI can analyze students' past work, interests, and learning styles to suggest how traditional assignments like essays and even quizzes can be modified to align with their passions, making the assignments more engaging and relevant. And it can contextualize assignments for public audiences by helping reframe traditional assignments so they are meaningful for a broader audience on shared platforms. For instance, AI can take on personas of people from diverse backgrounds, age groups, genders, regions, nations, and the like to help both instructors and students to reframe an essay assignment for an audience both instructors and students may not have considered fully. For instance, a person living in Dahlonega, Georgia, who has never visited Atlanta or a similar large city. For open pedagogy-based assignments, instructors can incorporate AI as a student learning partner. Instructors can develop assignments using AI as a tool for creating new content, such as writing essays, generating art, or developing research projects, and that prompt students to critically engage with AI. Instructors can design assignments that require students to evaluate the accuracy, relevancy, and ethical implications of AI-generated content. For example, students could be asked to identify any biases or assumptions in AI outputs, or to compare AI-generated work with human-created content like the student's own, or if AI is hallucinating or making things up. And what I think is most important, instructors can collaborate with AI to scaffold their open pedagogy assignments in order to build higher order thinking skills like synthesis, evaluation, and creativity. Who? AI can support students' use of open access in knowledge sharing by instructors using AI to locate safe spaces on the internet for sharing the learning objects and renewable projects they create for open pedagogy-based coursework. AI tools can be programmed to filter and suggest platforms that align with specific Creative Commons licenses and ensure that these platforms comply with privacy standards. AI can analyze user reviews, community feedback, and platform policies to suggest spaces that foster a supportive and inclusive community, or it can highlight platforms that actively engage with educators and students. A platform like the already mentioned Merlot, for example, can expose students to ethical peer review practices and constructive critique. Also, by analyzing content, user interactions, and platform policies, AI can help instructors evaluate and choose spaces that are less likely to harbor or promote biased content. And AI can take into account the specific objectives of the instructor, such as the subject matter, target audience, and desired level of interactivity, to suggest the most appropriate and secure platforms for sharing students' learning objects and renewable projects for the instructor's evaluation and choice. Next slide, please. Aligning AI with open pedagogy requires careful consideration. Mainly Corey, will demonstrate how to create AI prompts that guide students in producing assignments that are not only open, but also foster critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity or creation, a la Bloom's taxonomy. For example, Corey can show you how to develop a prompt that encourages students to create a project in an open format while ensuring their work remains their own. So let's consider some prompt examples. Increasingly, prompt development resources for instructors in higher education are becoming available. Resources like TeacherMade's How to Write Prompts for ChatGPT or Harvard University's online resource, Getting Started with Prompts for Text-Based Generative AI Tools. We're considering, though, how to develop prompts for open pedagogy assignments. To guide students in producing open assignments that foster critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity, instructors can engineer specific AI prompts that explicitly and deliberately encourage these skills. For example, prompts like analyze and compare multiple perspectives on X topic. How do these perspectives influence the overall understanding of the subject? That can encourage critical thinking. Or brainstorm with your group to come up with 3 unique approaches to solving X problem. Discuss the strengths and weaknesses of each approach. That can encourage collaboration. Or use X digital tool or platform to create a multimedia presentation that represents your interpretation of X concept. How can you use visuals, audio, and text to enhance your message? That can encourage creativity. Or choose an open platform to publish your work. What steps will you take to protect your privacy and the privacy of others involved in the project? That can foster open access and public engagement. And additional prompts like use AI tools to analyze the data or information you've collected on X topic. How does the AI's analysis compare to your own? What are the benefits and limitations of using AI in this context? That can integrate AI in assignments, and consider the ethical implications of sharing your work publicly. What steps will you take to ensure it's used responsibly and does not perpetuate harm? That can encourage considering ethical issues and bias awareness. These AI prompts are designed to help students not only complete their assignments, but also engage deeply with the material, collaborate effectively with their peers, and think creatively and critically about the content they produce. And by integrating open pedagogy principles, they ensure that students are considering the broader implications of their work, including ethical considerations, public engagement, and the use of AI tools. Instructors can prompt students to ethically collaborate with AI to create learning objects for public sharing, that is, in converting traditional assignments to open pedagogy-based ones, by asking it to visualize the learning object they describe and suggesting an AI-powered tool that can assist them in realizing their description in various formats and methodologies. Through such collaboration, students in a world literature course, for example, could analyze themes, motifs, and character development in classical texts, and then realize their analyses using AI-powered tools like Adobe Premiere Pro with AI features, and Audacity for multimedia integration to create high-quality video and audio content to share on institutional repositories. Or they could use AI tools like Timeline.js to create interactive and visually appealing timelines. Or they could use AI-enhanced mapping tools like Google Earth to create detailed and interactive story maps, as Google Earth's Place Mark feature helps students mark specific locations on a map. Such place marks can have custom titles and descriptions, text and images related to the story, and hyperlinks to external resources or media. With Google Earth, students can also embed images, videos, or 3D models for immersive storytelling experiences, or audio clips for voice-over narration, soundscapes, or interviews related to a location or story topic, thus creating an immersive learning experience for themselves and for their broader audience. I think I won't share the AI enhanced rubrics for open pedagogy because I want to make sure Corey has time for her presentation. And if people have questions later, I might consider, I might share that then. But I think I would like to turn everything over to you, Corey. And thank you all.
Hello. Thank you, BJ. Hopefully everyone can hear me. So what we're going to do next is kind of like a live experimentation. We're going to do it live. So I would encourage you all to think of an example of an assignment, an open pedagogy assignment. And in a second, I'm going to ask for someone to unmute and volunteer an idea for an open pedagogy assignment, and we can kind of explore how AI can help us with that. If you want to, feel free to open your own preferred AI text generation tool. Here I am using ChatGPT. This is our walled garden, so anything I give it is not going to be used for training the large language model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait a couple seconds to see if maybe someone's brave enough to suggest an open pedagogy assignment and allow people to either follow along or open their own AI tools. All right, does anyone have a suggestion on an assignment that we could kind of play with? I see some chat. Let me see. An assignment asking students to create a video to report on their research. Okay. So let's see. The needed would be a good rubric for such an assignment. Okay, that's a good one. So we are asking students to create a video to report their research, and essentially based on Ahmed's suggestion, we are going to ask AI to help us come up with a rubric. So there's a couple of things to think of ahead of time. So one thing would be which patterns can we apply in this situation? So one pattern that we can apply is the persona pattern. And pattern is just I guess, a name that they're giving to these techniques of how you're asking AI to do certain things. So for example, I am going to give AI a persona of you are a professor and we are giving an assignment to these students, and this is what I want you to create. So for the remainder of this conversation, you are a professor assigning bioengineering students an open pedagogy assignment. Okay, so now it is going to, okay, now it's starting to feed me stuff. I didn't ask you anything, but it's gonna go ahead and give you suggestions, but we can go ahead and stop that. We now can give it more prompts on what we want it to do. So we want it to create a rubric, right? So one thing that we can ask it to do is to give us suggestions on how to create a rubric. So you need to create a rubric for students completing a video assignment based on their research in bioengineering. Like what areas should be considered when creating this rubric? Okay, so now it's going to give us some things. Another thing that we can ask that is important, I believe, especially when you're doing scholarly research and open pedagogy, would be fact checking. So you can actually, oh, can you please enlarge your screen? Sorry. Let me see if I can zoom in. Give me 1 second. Option, Command, and equal sign. Let's see if that'll work. That's not working. Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunately not letting me zoom in. Maybe. Did that help at all? I can't see chat. So Ariana, I'm gonna need you to help me with that. So
Or you can try Command Plus on Mac.
Command plus. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, that works.
Perfect.
See, Google AI was telling me something different to try. So just proof that AI is not perfect. So now I want it to let me know like what kind of facts and assumptions is it making based on what it's been trained to create this rubric suggestion. So what facts and assumptions are you making when providing the output for the rubric? So this is what it's giving me. It knows that it's based on open pedagogy. It's telling me what it's assuming are the facts about video format. And the primary goal is educational, so content clarity, audience accessibility, and communication effectiveness, blah, blah, blah. So, and hopefully you're getting different things, you know, if you're kind of doing it on your own. What's interesting is even if you're giving the same exact prompts that I am, you're going to get a different output. So I'm trying to think of other things. Oh, we could also ask AI to consider what possible restrictions or accessibility issues we might need to consider for such an assignment. So what restrictions would the students face when completing such a video assignment? So it's going to be thinking about that. You can also do a template. So one thing that you can do is create a template. For example, we're using the rubric example where you say, I'm going to make a table and these are the headers. Fill in this table, you know, with XYZ. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop this. I am providing a template for the rubric. Rather than provide the headings, I'm going to ask AI, what headings should I provide for this template? And let's see. Okay, so it's giving me possible headings. And we're just going to kind of let it go because what I want to see it do next is actually create this rubric for us and see if it can remember the suggestions it gave for how, like, what to include on the rubric and the grading scale and see if it can create that for us. We may need more fine tuning, but this is just kind of like a brief example. There's not much we can do in the time that we're given, but we want to make sure that we leave time for questions and stuff like that. But so using your outputs of what should be included on a rubric template and how a rubric for a video assignment should be made. Please provide a downloadable Word document with the rubric. And we're going to see this might be too hard for it. And based on, see, it's still analyzing. So this may be too much. So what I'm going to do is stop here. And what you can do is ask AI what it needs. Okay, so we want it to create a rubric, you know, based on what it's given me. So I want to create a rubric based on the outputs you have provided. I want you to give me a downloadable Word file with this rubric. What do you need, whoops, to achieve this outcome? So this is, there's in our resources, which we're going to link later, which is why I was a little distracted at the beginning. We're going to provide an academic paper that was actually produced by an instructor from Vanderbilt, I think he is, Jules White, I think is his name. And it is a catalog of different patterns and prompts that they suggest you try, and what the, you know, what are the benefits, what are the downfalls, like where is it weak and where is it strong. So we'll provide that for you. So let's see, so to create a downloadable Word file with the rubric based on the criteria we discussed, I need to know the score scale. So here are the answers to your questions. 1, the score scale should be 1 to 5. 2, would you like brief descriptions for each criterion? Yes, please provide brief, whoops, descriptions. And then would you like space for comments under each category? No space for comments. We're just going to try and make this a little bit easier. DocX is great. Please create the rubric for me. I'm gonna do. And it may take a little bit longer because it is actually creating a file. So Ariana, are there any questions, suggestions, anything interesting coming up on chat while we wait for that?
Yeah, let me take a look here. Yes, just to reiterate for everyone, we are going to be sharing our slides and then, as Corey mentioned, our other documents over on the SCED site. So those will be there for everyone to view at your leisure. Barbara asks, how do you stop the AI output if you're looking to maybe edit it a little bit?
Okay, so we can, there's this little button here that says stop, so I can stop it. Let's see, I don't think, can I restart it? Okay, this is just showing me details of the code, so I don't need that. So yeah, if it's not giving you what you need, you can just hit stop and try and reframe what you're doing. And we're probably going to move on from this actually creating the rubric because it might be having a hard time creating the doc file. So another thing that I think is really fun is using AI to find new AI tools. So something to remember is, you have to have the right tool for the job, right? So you're not going to go to a text generation AI tool to create an image, and vice versa. So there are two different kinds of AI. So there's generative AI and predictive AI. Generative AI is creating something new out of content that it's been fed. And usually these are your large language models that you see like ChatGPT, the Microsoft AI tools and things like that. Predictive AI is where it is going to predict an outcome based on historical data that it's been fed. So predictive AI can be something as simple as your Outlook suggesting the next word in a sentence. So different things. So that's kind of like the difference between generative AI and predictive AI. Predictive AI is also useful for like, businesses, and you're predicting what the next season is going to look like in sales and different things like that. Let me see. Another thing to remember is, and I found this out personally, is that AI can have an ego. So it doesn't like to admit when it's wrong, and it doesn't like to admit that it can't do something. So another technique to try would be to say, why can't you do this for me? Or please explain why you're unable to finish this as I asked. Or one that I was working on was I needed it to help me edit down a narrative paragraph. And every time it tried to edit it for me, it would give me a paragraph that was longer than the one I asked it to edit. So I reiterated, I need this to be under 600 words. If you cannot do this, let me know. When I challenged it like that, it actually followed the instructions that I gave it. So one of the resources we're providing is actually, it's called a refusal break pattern or something like that. Yeah, refusal breaker pattern. And they give you ideas on how to do that. And I encourage everyone, if you're interested in learning more about prompts and AI, Coursera has an awesome course. This is where I'm learning a lot of this by Jules White. He ran that. There can also ask AI for different AI tools. So one AI tool I learned about, which I can show you, is Notebook LM. This is something that you could talk to your students about. You can, this is one of my workspaces. I uploaded a chapter from one of our open textbooks for public policy. And let's see if I can open this. It can actually create a podcast based on the content you feed it. So this is supposed to be a study tool for students. So they can upload PDFs that you've provided. It won't read Word. I don't know if it'll do Excel. So I know PDFs is like one of the main formats that it works with. Upload any source documents. They can upload their notes in PDFs or anything like that. And then they can ask it to, for example, create an FAQ, create a timeline, create a study guide. But you can also create a podcast, which I think is the coolest thing. So because it's AI, it's not guaranteed that it's, gonna get it right every time, or that it's not going to hallucinate, or it's not going to try and BS its way through it. But this is something that I think could help your students, and I may recommend you letting them know about it. And then the other thing, other tool that I found is Conmigo, which is by Khan Academy. I'm not a professor, so I'm not sure how useful these AI tools are, but this is an AI like tool database that is geared towards educators, and it's free for educators. Unfortunately, they charge students to use the student AI tools, but I thought this might be worth playing around with. There's different tools for planning, for creating assignments, for support, like the IEP assistant was pretty interesting. So I'll open that right now. So if you have students with different abilities, this can help you give suggestions on different ways of creating that individual plan for them. So Ariana, is there anything else in the chat that maybe any other suggestions or questions? I'm kind of breezing through this and I want to make sure we have enough time to play too. And
Absolutely. So Ahmad had a question um, about learning how to talk to AI and or prompt it, and kind of made the observation that it makes a really big difference in the quality of the output, how you talk to it. So about how long has it kind of taken you to learn how to do this?
so it is very unique in that I learn like little cheats. So like when I learned that AI has an ego, like it it was just out of sheer frustration that I was just like, why can't you do this? If you can't do this, just tell me, Um, so just experimentation, like nothing, this is so new to everybody, and they are still adding literature and suggestions and best practices. And the interesting part about this is it's going to be different for every discipline. It's going to be different not only for every discipline, but for every professor, how they teach, what their business plan, what their course plan is. So it and AI is also unpredictable in that it's going to give you something different. So if I were to type in Mary had a little lamb, it's going to be, think about like, I guess the higher like intellectual um, bandwidth it's going to take to create the output you're looking for, the more you're going to have to feed it. So Mary had a little lamb, it's going to give me the rest of it, right? But if I put in something different, it'll like Mary had a big lamb, you know? um, oh, so I should have started a new chat. Let's try this. It was still going off of the rubric. So it was still remembering like, oh, like, is this something you want to work into the rubric? So Mary had a big lamb. And I'm also going to tell it what I want it to do. Finish this poem. Um, so it's creating something completely different than, but it's kind of, it recognized that there's a pattern here. Like this is kind of like a parody of Mary Had a Little Lamb. The other thing to remember would be to ask AI what it needs. Like this is, if you kind of know what direction you're wanting to go, then um, kind of like when we were asking AI, what information do you need to create this Word document rubric for me? Feel free to ask AI. Another thing to do would be to ask other faculty, maybe in your same discipline, or ask computer science faculty, like what they suggest. One thing I've noticed is sometimes in the literature, the people talking about AI, they're going to be talking about it more from like the idea of computer programming or maybe IT security and stuff. And that's just because they're the main ones working with this and creating the best practices, right? But try to think outside the box and think, for example, there's a pattern called the recipe pattern. So it creates a list of steps to help you achieve an outcome. So for the example that I'm giving you in our resources, they might say something like, uh, I'm creating this code and I want the result to be XYZ. These are the first couple steps. What other steps can you break down for me? You can do that for anything. You can do that for, creating a new assignment where, like the video assignment, what steps should I encourage my students to do? So if we go back to the video assignment rubric, what steps should I provide to students on how to complete the video assignment. Another thing to consider is context, which is another pattern. So I'm throwing all these patterns at you, but I promise we're going to give you that article. Is what to consider, what not to consider. So I want it to keep in mind the rubric that will be used to grade the, let's see, the rubric you suggested. So it's telling it to look back at our previous conversation, that will be used to grade the students' work. And we're gonna see.
Corey, kind of related to this, there was another
Mhm.
question from Mustafa saying, I really like the applications. I'm wondering if you've tried to let AI use the rubrics it creates to evaluate assignments.
So I have not, because I don't teach, but I think that would be interesting. The one thing to remember is ethically, I think you would definitely want to make sure that what the AI is saying is actually true. So it does need a human eye to check this. The other thing that we have noticed, just through publishing and exploring AI for different workflows and things like that, is that it can create great like feedback. But something to remember is when you need to give it restrictions. You need to let it know the purpose. You know, what was you know, what's the audience, what's the purpose? So BJ, did you have something to add for that, or?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm just, we have about 5 minutes, 4
Oh,
minutes.
okay. Okay. Ariana, are there more questions or anything?
Yeah, would you mind sharing the name of the Coursera course you mentioned one more time, Corey?
Yes. I think it's prompt engineering.
And I see,
Coursera.org.
I see a question, how can our students observe the development of thinking skills through the AI platforms, which I think is very helpful in terms of the critical thinking and problem solving. And I was thinking things like engage them in fact checking, literally saying problem solving or using a Socratic method, but there are other possibilities that I'm sure you've got in your bag of brilliant ideas.
Yeah, so fact checking, there's that prompt, so you can ask the AI to fact check itself, and then the students can by hand go through that, like is that really, is it accurate? Is it correct? Is it hallucinating? Is it making stuff up? I hope that answers the question.
I think there was somebody way back, oh, yes. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. It was about, can you create assignments that different iterations of the same assignment, different versions? Like, I'm trying to find it. This is painful.
Oh, so like if you want different
Yeah.
students to have different iterations, I have
Well,
not tried that. Like of the same, like you want an exam, but kind of like form exam A, B, C, I'm
or how
assuming.
to, yes, and or how to turn it into an essay assignment, or how to turn it into an audio visual, that sort of thing. But I think you've kind of answered that question in terms of asking it to make its own suggestions for you and then to follow up. I think also somebody said, Amber says, an assignment that asks students to compare and contrast two websites for effective document design principles, proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast. And that fits in with critical thinking. So students can really analyze websites, what makes them creative, what makes them useful, and what I find interesting, what makes them clearly aware of audiences like students themselves. How will students know that they're included? So how would you do that? And I think we're going to have to stop because we have 1 minute left.
So how to make sure, can you
Uh,
say that one more time?
how to an assignment that asks students to compare and contrast two websites for effective document design.
Okay. So I would consider instructing the students to tell AI what is effective document design. Ask it to define that. Ask the students to then analyze what outputs it's providing. Ask the students to train, the AI. I used AI to help me kind of brainstorm how to create this kind of demonstration. And to do that, I had to tell it like, you're going to be giving a presentation on open pedagogy and AI. And I had to explain to it what our definition of open pedagogy was. I didn't want it to assume. I wanted my input to supersede anything it pulled from the internet that may or may not be correct. So it also helps students think critically of how true it is, and then also encouraging the students to use the fact checking tool again, that pattern. Um, and you can ask AI to cite its sources as well. So another thing also is this is also helpful with equity, is consider students' own bias, consider the website creator's bias, and then also consider AI's bias. We did an experiment yesterday when we were doing a dress rehearsal of this, where I asked AI to, you know, analyze a website and see what kind of unintentional biases might be on a bioengineering website. And then it gave me feedback. And then I asked it, what biases or blind spots might you have with this feedback that you've given me? And then it did that on itself. So it is actually analyzing itself, which is really interesting. Oops. I shared there's the Coursera link. Sorry, I thought I shared it with everyone, but I shared it with Rosario.
And we'll be
Any other
sharing,
questions?
and we'll be
I
sharing
think,
the slides and things too, and our rubrics.
yes, let me
Instead.
share the link to that. So the sources are already up, and then I am working on getting the slides in there. So I should have the slides added to that folder. It's OneDrive folder. And I also explained how to audit a course on Coursera, in case you weren't aware that you don't have to pay for these Coursera courses if you don't want to be graded. You don't get the certificate, but you also get the information for free. So that's helpful.
I think.
It asks us to log in. Oh no, let me try. Let me try settings. Okay, anyone. All right, let's try this link. I want to make sure people have access. So if someone in the chat can let me know that that's working. Okay, it works. Awesome.
Excellent.
All right. And we got 2 minutes. So is there anything else?
Feel free to use your mics.
Yeah.
Up, so you can just say whatever you want, and we'll be
Oh,
interested.
it might be helpful to have there's our email addresses. So if you have any follow-up questions, or ideas, we're always interested in learning more. So.
Yeah. Mhm. Ariane, are you seeing any final questions?
Let me scroll up and see if there's any we might have missed.
One thing I'll say about creating prompts while Ariana looks is I felt like I literally had to live with AI to get it used to my language. And ultimately, I kept saying just what Corey does suggest, which is, what do you need? Can you write the directions for me so that you have everything that you need to create like a script or something like that. And it took a while and it could still make errors, but ultimately it really came up with great directions. And we are about out of time.
Can I add something real quick? If
Yes.
you were curious about how to get started or next steps, there is a resource that we provided. AI told me how to get started, and I provided next steps of university resources that you can use in your own institution.
Yes, and my presentation will include the rubric that will add up there, up to SCED will include the rubric information that I omitted, but it's there.
All righty. Well, that's our time. Thank you, everybody.